Okay, we should kickstart about now. It's already 5 minutes past 2. I have very little to say. The floor will be open to the dignitaries in the house. They have a lot to share with you. So how it would go is that we have roughly an hour and 30 minutes maximum to achieve today's program. So if you don't mind, if you are called upon to speak, you kindly, unmute yourself and speak. Otherwise, please remain on mute so as to, maintain decorum. At the same time, while the speakers are sharing their experience and suggestions to you, it will also be kind for you to leave some questions as they proceed, so that by the time a particular speaker is done, we can look at some of those questions that you drop in the chat window. And after we exhaust, a tangible amount of the questions, we look forward to any of the speaker. But just so you know, any of the speaker can contribute to any of the questions that is being asked. So you just drop your question. If you need to address to a particular speaker, you could just tag the name there. And then as we proceed further, the speakers would do well to answer some of your questions. So are we good to go? So it seems all is fine and good. So Patrick and Chidima. So I would try not to call names. I will just drop the questions there. So any of you who is open to respond to them at first can start with giving a response. Then if the other person needs to add a thing or two, you could always proceed. So my first question is, what is the appropriate background? What are the profiles anyone who is applying for a Commonwealth scholarship should have? Should it just be everybody? Because although it's this talk is organized by the First Class Leaders Network, I don't think everyone here is part of the First Class Leaders Network. So is this strictly for first class if you want to apply for the Commonwealth scholarship, or first class doesn't matter, or there are more other things that you should have, like volunteer experiences, like you might have worked for United Nations, like some of us, even though some of us have done even express of this. So what is the profile required for anyone who wants to apply for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship in this case?
Okay, sorry. So before I say anything, whatever I say here reflects or represents my personal opinion and insights, and they by no way represent the opinion of the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. Okay, so the basic requirement, okay, for you to be eligible for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is the fact that you have a first degree, okay, and a first degree with the minimum class designation being a second class upper division. So that is a basic requirement. Once you have this, voluntary and all other requirements are secondary. Now, you shouldn't have worked or probably schooled in a developed country for more than 1 year. So if you meet this basic requirement, then you are in. You don't need to have any requisite or relevant working experience to be eligible. So basically, this is what is required. But there are other elements that makes you more competitive or makes your application very competitive. Yes, I don't know if I can continue with that. Otherwise, probably when you open up for me to talk about that, I'll talk about that.
Mr. Patrick, thank you very much. If you need to add that to it, just to give a background of the profile that is required, so those who are applying would know whether they should stop or they should press on with all aggressiveness.
Yes, the point is, you mentioned as required. The only basic requirement is that you have a bachelor's degree and the minimum class designation, with a minimum class designation of a second class upper division, and then that is all. That is the basic requirement. All other things are not requirement. For example, relevant working experience, it is not a requirement. Having published papers, it is not a requirement. All other things are secondary. They only beef up or improve your candidacy, or let me say, they make you much more competitive for the scholarship. So for example, I have so many friends that applied with no relevant working experience. They applied with, how do you call it, with a second class upper division, and they got in, even at their first attempt. You get it. I know that there are a lot of people in here that are like, okay, so I had a second class upper division, and I'm not going to be very competitive, or Commonwealth Shared Scholarship are for first class applicants. That is the biggest lie. That I know many applicants. Currently, there's one friend of mine who is at Cranfield University. She went in with a second class upper division. My best friend also, I think about 2 to 3 years ago, also won with a second class upper division at King's College London, sorry. So the basic requirement is that you have a second class upper division, and you are able to articulate, let me say, your career plans, and then, you know, let me say, you are able to identify problems in your country and propose, you know, sustainable solutions to them. And you should be the candidate that the commission is after.
Okay, thank you very much for that contribution, Patrick. I'm very, very much grateful. I'm sure the ears of our participants are already itching to hear more what you have to say. So, Scholar Chidima, would you want to add a thing or two to that before I welcome other scholar in the house? Thank you.
Okay, Patrick has said basically all, yes, the academic merits, and then they need to understand that you want the funding, or you want the experience you get through the funding. You want to use it to develop your home country. So they need to see the development impact mindset. And once you can tell that story, whether you're a 2-1 or you're a first class student or you're a first class graduate, I think you'll be very fine. So it's you being able to tell your story effectively. You know, there are some people who have good experiences, good backgrounds, even with the first class degree, but they were unable to tell their stories through the applications. Now, those readers don't see you, they see your application. So your application has to go for to represent you in the right way. Okay, that's basically it.
Okay, thank you very much, Chidima. So I also wish to welcome to the house our third speaker for today, Ayomide Olukorede. So please, can you just give a shout out so we know you're here with us? Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Ayomide. It's nice to see you. I was nice so happy hearing that you are going to join us, because, you know, they said 2 good heads are better than 1. Now imagine when it's 3. Let me not add further to the comment. So thanks for being with us. So as I said earlier, I will be dropping the questions, and any of the speakers, either you, Patrick, or Chidima, is very welcome to contribute. And upon when the other person is done with his contribution, then anyone who is also open to contribute could also contribute. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Chidima, for the background introducing us to this. So the next part of my questions for you guys is what do you expect to be the content of a personal statement? I know in the past few years, the Commonwealth essays have been much more broken down. For example, in 2018, you just had only 5-6 categories to write on. Well, now you have about 7-8 or more categories. Sorry, someone is not on mute and I can hear myself. So, and then you have some of these essays being broken down into more and more layers. So I will start with the personal statement. What do you expect one could write in a personal statement, not for admission purposes now, for the Commonwealth purpose, that is more convincing what are the elements? You know, I know your personal statement is quite different from Chidima's personal statement and different from Ayomde's personal statement and a whole lot of other scholars out there. But what do you think are the elements that if you are the will I call it admission team, and you should see the scholarship committee, and you should see the personal plan, you'll be like, man, I have to give this guy, I have to give this girl this scholarship at all costs. Yes. So what do you have to say about that?
I may want to start, then my colleagues add their contributions. Yes. So just like you mentioned, we have different ways of writing. You know, some people are gifted with the art of public, how do you call it? The art of storytelling. So they are able to use storytelling to craft a very convincing and, you know, moving personal statement. Now, just like you mentioned, personal statement for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is very different from personal statement for admission purposes. They are two different contents. Now, personal statement for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, let me refer to the prompt, okay? So I can, yeah, sorry. Okay, so the prompt is summarize the ways in which your personal background has encouraged you to want to make an impact in your home country. You should indicate areas in which you have already contributed, such as having overcome any personal or community barriers to higher education. Okay, so with this prompt, it is not an avenue to tell the whole world or to tell your assessor that you are the poorest in Africa. No, they already know you are poor. Sorry, excuse my words. They already know you don't have. You understand? And that is why this funding is made available to improve not only your academics, but your financial background. They pay you enough to take care of some of this, you know, issues that you might want to present in your essay. They are very much aware. So you should present something that would move them. And a typical example is to talk about some of the visible barriers that, you know, some of the visible barriers to your formal education. For example, what were the barriers in your family? If you are the first person having formal education in your family, then of course there is some barrier. You didn't have any motivation, any source of encouragement. Of course, that is a family barrier. And then two, if in your community, okay, for example, I come from a fishing community where, you know, the major source of income, okay, for people, for those in the community is fishing, is basically fishing. So there is no form of, you know, encouragement to get enrolled in school. Nothing pushes you to enroll in school. I think this is another barrier because there is no motivation in the community. The only motivation is to go into fishing. So this is another visible barrier to formal education. And then the third could be financial barriers, which we tend to amplify in our essays. Okay, there's no point amplifying that very one because they know you faced some financial barriers. So that is another aspect that you could highlight in your essay. Then you have to point out that with all these three barriers, family barriers, community barriers, and then financial barriers that you faced, regardless of all the challenges, okay, you were able to pull out to become probably the top 5% in your class, in your graduating class, or the top 10%, the top 15%, give values, okay? Then you have to also highlight what exactly in your community has fueled, you know, that desire to take up that program. What is the issue in the community, okay, that has pushed or that is pushing you to take up, you know, the program that you have applied for? All these should be factored in. And what are your proposed solutions? So these solutions are not only for development impact statements. They should all come to play, okay, in your personal statement. So don't just mention that, okay, so I have this family barrier, and after mentioning that family barrier, how has that contributed to that, burning desire to have or take that master's program? Okay, your financial barrier, how has that contributed to that, growing desire to take that master's program? What are the proposed solutions that you have to improve your community? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick. I am very, very much glad hearing the details you've put out there, and I hope the participants will make good use of it. So my next question, I'll rather direct it to Ayomide. Ayomide, can you give us a little bit of contribution as to what kind of volunteer activities? Because I believe there's a part of the essays that involve volunteer activities. So can you give us a bit of what are the volunteer activities one could put into the essays that are significant? For example, I could volunteer to be sweeping my church. Would that count? So yeah, just a question. Ayomide, are you there? You're currently on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you for the question. So I would say that there's nothing that you do that is a waste. It just depends on how. Can you hear me clearly?
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. It just depends on how you present it and how genuine that sounds. So you could put in volunteer activities that you initiated. For instance, if when you were in school, if you started any kind of initiative where you reached out to people or you did something in your society, I feel that you can put that in. But when mentioning it, it's better you put in some level of statistical analysis of what you've done, like the number of people. You should be kind of precise so they know the capacity range of what you've done or the impact range of what you've done. For instance, if you reached out to like 50 people or 100 people, just give quantitative analysis of what you've done, the impact of what you've done. Then if you worked in a company as an intern voluntarily without pay, that also can go into your essay. So I think it's just about looking back at what you've done in one way or the other. There's nothing that is a waste. I think it just depends on how you write it, how you present it, that really, really matters. I don't know if I should cite example. For instance, while I was in school, I used to tutor my classmates. I used to tutor undergraduates, people in 200 level, 300 level. I was able to put that in because later on I was also appointed as an academic tutor for the department. So things like that, and the positions you've held voluntarily, maybe during the department, or if you were involved in anything that had to do with representing the students in the school, you just need to be able to tailor it towards showing that you actually care for people that are around you, you care for your society, you care about things that are going on around you, and you are willing to make a change, you're willing to make an impact, basically.
Okay. So just to cut you, someone asked in the chat that, do you have to provide certificates to show for your volunteerism?
No, you don't have to. It's not like they're going to come to check or verify, but I just feel that you shouldn't over-exaggerate what you've what you are putting into your statement. Don't amplify it and make it look like it's way bigger than it is, because sometimes I feel like they might be able to tell what is true and what is not true from the progression of the essay. You know, they might be able to pick when you're exaggerating. Don't say it, if you've only been able to reach out to 100 people, don't say you reach out to 10,000 people or 1,000 people benefited from me, because your capacity and the resources available to you, except you're able to provide some form of convincing statements or something to really show that you have the capacity to do what you've done, they would easily pick it when you're over-exaggerating. So I think you should just, the point is just that you are trying to do something, you're able to identify a problem in your environment, and you are able to provide solutions to tackle those problems. So nobody's going to ask you for certificates or proof, or they're not going to come down to Nigeria to check or verify that if you've done it. Oh, no, nobody's going to do that, but they will be able to tell, I think, if you're really able to do that thing or not.
Okay, thank you very much, Amide. You've hit the nail on the head.
Can you hear me, Yuka? I just want to add something. From the Nigerians, I don't know whether the Ghanaians do the National Youth Service. That's also voluntary. So if you have some experiences there that are peculiar to you, that somewhat should be in the essays, you might consider writing it, but ensure that you write it in a manner that it puts you forward as someone who is selfless. Okay. And then, I was also going to add, sorry, there are all other online campaigns. Maybe I could just search for some and then put them on the chat. They are online volunteer campaigns. You could probably say you join them, you know, just posting, like just reposting a campaign is voluntary. How you put it in your essay now depends on you. Okay. So make every effort, every activity you have done, make it count, and let it put you forward as that person that should get the award.
Okay. Thank you very much for that heads up. Someone said, can you elaborate on your line? Yeah, other questions? Yes, please, Patrick, proceed.
Yes. So the little I would want to add to what Chidima and Ayumide said is using the STAR approach to project your story. Okay, so with whatever you were doing, what is the situation? Okay, and then what was the task? And then what action did you take? And then what was the result? And if probably there was some achievement at the end of it, put it there. So state the situation. What was the task? What were you supposed to do? What did you do? And then what was the result? And if you were rewarded, there was an award or anything, state it. And I think, you know, you should be able to. This is how I coined, you know, my voluntary and leadership experience. So I took 3 basic items that I did, okay, from my national service, and then some personal activities that I was engaged in, and then some campaigns, just like Chidima said. Okay, so I stated the situation, the task, the action I took, the result, and then some achievement that came with, you know, the action that we led. So basically, that is what I wanted to add to what my 2 colleagues said.
Thank you very, very much. The 3 speakers have spoken exhaustively, and I think they already, someone said, just in case Chidima needs to add to that, that if you can elaborate what you mean by the online campaigns, just a bit in a minute or 2. So that's if yes. Chidima, you're still on mute.
Okay, I think last week there was a campaign for the International Women's Day, and then some people just had to repost on Facebook, on LinkedIn, championing female education. That's a campaign. Do you understand? So there are many other ones. There's this particular one I was involved in sometime in 2018, Global Youth Ambassadors. So they were championing education for children. So you now put yourself forward as someone who was also part of that. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So this question is addressed to you, Chidima. Sorry, if any other person is not speaking, please can you mute yourself? Okay, thank you very much. So Chidima, here's my question to you. My question is on leadership. So what are the roles that are best suitable to go into your leadership essays, and how will you construct it? Do you have to have the presidential roles all the time before we can classify it? Oh my goodness. Pardon me, I just have to see if I can mute everybody. Okay. Please, if you're not speaking, can you kindly mute yourself? Thank you very much. So my question is, do you have to play some presidential roles or the top head before you can count those roles as leadership roles? That's part of the question. And then someone asks here that, is leadership experience different from volunteer experience, or both go hand in hand? So if you can find a way, we just spoke about volunteer experience now, and now leadership experience. So can you help us give a balance to those answers? Thank you.
Okay, I'll start from the last question that says, is leadership experience different from voluntary experience? It depends on the context. You might be leading, but you're volunteering, okay? But you can also be a leader and you're not volunteering. It's a full-time leadership position, okay? But in the essays, in the way the essays are constructed, the leadership and voluntary experience is coined together. So you have to tell both, you have to tell stories of both yourself as a leader and when you volunteered. Is that fine? Okay, then I think the first question, you do not, okay, yes, you have, okay, in my own essays, I had some stories that put me forward as someone who had been in leadership positions, because I had been. So, but if you have not been a follower, an obedient follower, or someone who ensured that you encouraged your leader, or you put forward things to your leader that ensured that your team achieved their goals, it's still some sort of leadership, if you ask me. You tell your story as someone who is a team player. So that's for those who don't have leadership experiences, like being you, the first person in that position. I hope that's clear.
Okay, does being a secretary count as a leadership role? If I was a secretary to a particular organization?
It now depends. I'm particular about how you tell your story, how you write your essays. So you might have even been someone who worked with the president of Nigeria, but you have poorly written your essay, and I cannot see that charisma in your essays. And then you could probably be somebody who has been handling a WhatsApp group, and you're writing the essay like someone who has been handling something very big. So that's why I'm particular about the applications, because those documents, those forms we fill go to represent us and all our experiences. Imagine you just writing about 25 years of your life in just 300 words, and then you're sending that forth. The person has not met you before. The reader has not met you before. It doesn't know who you are, but your essays, the way you present them, the way you tell your story now goes ahead of you to better picture you before them.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. I never thought maybe my previous years as a WhatsApp group admin would count to save my life, but from what you said now, all those WhatsApp group admins, please note this. It's very, very important. Okay, there are still some other logistics questions people are asking as regards school application and all that. So we'll get
to that.
Ayomide, please proceed. Yes.
Yeah, it's really not about, like I said earlier, it's not about the big things, and like Chidima said, it's about how you present, even things as tiny as being a peacemaker, settling a fight between two people. Even experiences from secondary school, you might think they don't matter. It's just about those instances. You just think about those instances where you've actually been able to make an impact, whether by supporting something to happen or taking the lead, or just identifying something in your environment and then just working towards making it better. In fact, it may not have generated so many results. It might be that you're not the one that ended up solving the problem, but maybe that ignited or attracted other people to then focus on that particular problem and then get it solved at the end of the day. So it's not about the big things. There was this time a friend of mine told me she was going to put into her essay that she was part of the people that joined in rescue for Sambisa, all these Chibok girls that were you don't need to go that far. You don't need to go that far saying she was part of the people that spearheaded the search for Chibok girls. I'm like, what? How can you put that in your essay? No, you don't need to go that far. It's just about thinking. You could just make sure there's a connection in your story. Like storytelling is about it's like you're driving from one point to the destination. So there's a connection. They want to see a pattern of leadership, a pattern of being able to take initiative or think independently or solve problem in your life in those 25 or so many years of your life. So you don't have to write all your stories. You can just pick 2 instances and then elaborate, 2 or 3, and then elaborate on how you identified the problem, how you solved it, then what was the result at the end of the day, like Patrick said initially. So it's not really about the big things.
Yeah, the STAR approach. So thank you very much, Ayomide, for adding to that. Just on a side note, because someone asked this question, as I said, there are other logistic questions, as regards admissions there. So I know some of the scholars will have to leave and return to their daily activities. So I'll just push that in. Someone said, can you apply if you already have a master's degree in the previous year? So just if anyone can comment on that briefly before we move to the next question. Yes, Patrick.
Say briefly, then I'll just say yes, you can.
Yeah,
yes, you can.
I did. I had a master's degree when I applied. Well, I was doing a master's when I applied. So, yeah, you can.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So now,
my degree shouldn't have been obtained from a developed country.
A developed country? Would you? Nigeria is developed, or is it not?
So for example, if you took the course in a developed country, then you are ineligible. Actually, you can't even apply for the scholarship at all.
Even if it's someone that borrowed me the money to go for that course, it's not me that paid.
Once you studied abroad, you studied in a developed country, you are ineligible, and they'll find out. You cannot hide it from them. You present your passport, and they have a system that would be able to give them your locations for the past like 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So you cannot
thank
hide
you for that. So my next question now goes to Patrick, and Ayomide actually can equally comment on that. It has to do with the career. There's an essay that I can talk about your career plan. So there's always this question of, you want me to write about my 5 years career plan? Do I have to lie about it? Or I have to tell you that, see you, as I'm like this, as I'm going, I'm not coming back? Is that the career plan you want to tell them? Okay, that was just a joke on the side note. But the career plan of what exactly would you expect to come into your career plan in the next 5 years? Because they expect you to return back to your home country and contribute to your home country. But then, of course, would I spend many 30 years of my life telling them that, oh, see my career plan in the next 10 years, I want to develop Nigeria. I will build skyscrapers everywhere. Or, you have to tell them about, okay, you want to go back and, do those stuff you say you were going to do. And then there's a part of me that wants to also leave and, further my career in pursuing a PhD or, doing something else outside my country per se. So what should the career plan entail? That's just the summary of what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, so I think Chidima would be best. Would be the best capacity to respond to this. But anyway, I would say something briefly, and then she can step in. Yeah. So yeah, of course, that is where they get to know if you are passionate about your country, and if how you would even want to use the knowledge or the skills that you would acquire over the course of your studies. Okay, so for the short term, that is the 5, career plans in 5 years. I think that is where you talk about if you want to take a PhD. Okay, that is the time to talk about or you want to come, you would go back and then with a institution to do A, to do B, to do C. whilst probably considering a PhD. You know, I think it is only 250 words, so you don't really have much to say, even though, well, I don't know, but I think with me, it's quite small. It's quite small for me, but that is where, like I said, you can talk about the institutions you would want to come and collaborate with to probably do your scientific research and, you know, foster some implementation of some blah, 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 just for the short term. Okay. No. Then you can open up for a long term in the other part of the essay that talks about your long-term career plans. Okay. Yeah, basically, I think this is what I can say. I don't have much to talk about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to cut in, Chima, I know you want to reply. So quickly, someone just asked, can your national ID card come in place of your passport, international passport? Just a quick answer to that. National ID in place of passport.
I don't think.
Has anybody said it before?
Yes. It is allowed when in the course of your application, yes. But when you get there, when you're nominated, your investor would request for it because they cannot process your stuff any further if you don't have a passport. Like, how do you, like, I mean, you want to travel, so you should have an international passport. Yeah, but at the time of application, yes, you can tender in a voter's ID in place of your passport. You can tender in any national ID. It shouldn't be like health insurance or anything. Any national ID. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So someone also asked. Sorry, I know this is a digression. You know, these are just very brief questions. So I was hoping because the questions are so much here, I think I'll lose track of some of them. Can you use one application to apply to 3 schools that have similar modules? Anyone?
Of course, I did the same thing. My SI. Okay, so let me tell you this. So my best application was with Commonwealth University. Okay. That was the university I'd wanted to attend. So I just replicated the essays that I used for Commonwealth University for all my other 7 applications. I made 7 applications. And if you have taken a look at all the programs that I was nominated for, you would notice that they are similar. If it is not climate change, it is environmental management. If it is not environmental management, it is environmental assessment. You get it? So they are similar and the contents are very, very similar. So that was how come I was able to sweep that many. And I think it provided you have similar models, okay? And then they all fall under the same theme. You know, every program comes with a theme, be it science and technology for development, strengthening resilience and response to crisis. Okay, if they are coming under the same thing, of course, why not? You can replicate the same essays, but there is a part that you cannot replicate. I think it is the new I don't know. Let me check that out for you.
Sorry, Charles, you are sharing your screen. Do you mind? Yeah, I think his phone is in his pocket. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Patrick, please proceed before we. Yes. Chima was supposed to talk more about the career.
That is what we call the. I think I don't have it here, but there is a section that you'd have to talk about the programs.
Okay.
I don't know. I've forgotten if.
It's all right. It's okay. Thank you very much.
That is the only.
I want to add the study outline.
Yes. The only part that you can, you have to change a bit. And even like if the programs are also related, you can tweak it a bit too as well, and it fits.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, that's you want to speak a TechnoSpark 5. Please, best you can leave it in a chat. Where you are is quite noisy. You can drop it as a chat, but you can speak now since you already draw our attention.
Hello. So I think the part is trying to say is the study outline part or research outline.
Okay, the study outline or research outline. All right, thank you very much. So Patrick.
Yeah, I think that is it. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. So Chidima, you were going to speak more about the career part. Please, you could elaborate if you desire before we proceed to the next part of the question, and then we can start picking up questions from the. You can start with admission questions, admission-related questions. But thanks to Scholar Chino, so he has really helped answer most of the questions in the chat, so that saved me a lot of work. Yes, so Chidima, please proceed.
Okay, I think Patrick has said basically all. I mean, it's just about 250 words, so you would not want to pack and put in a lot of information. But for the short-term plan, I think it will be important for every applicant to try and, make use or let them believe that you make use of the relationships you get while you have studied. That's after, it's your short-term plan after the award. Okay, it means when you are done studying, you must have made some connections, some contacts with certain people, and those are the people who will help you achieve the goals you have, at least for the short term. I don't know if that makes sense. And then when you come towards the long-term plans, it now becomes something about, it's now something that's national, or you could go international. You have built yourself for about 3-4 years. About the same time, you probably have acquired a PhD, or you have joined the industry and the likes. And then the long-term goals is now pushing, like you'll be talking about things how you now want to impact the world in general from your main spots, and how you just want to spread your wings across.
Can I also add to that?
Yes, Ayomide, please proceed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for that section, I think you could also make a connection between what you've done previously and probably a gap or a need in that particular place. For instance, if you've worked in a place before, or if you've worked with an institution before, or you've attended a conference before where they said they probably want to work on a project, or they need people in a particular field, then you can kind of attach how your course could be, could make you a needed expert in that area, or how you can now fit into that particular need. So sometimes you might just also have to do your research about what is the need in your field or that industry within your country at that time. How, by just, if you search on Google, you would find, some of this information about what is the gap, what is the need, what are the kind of people, what are the expertise needed in this field or in this industry within the next 3-5 years. So you can then put that in, okay, when I'm back, I'm going to continue working with this. Or if you've worked at a place before, particularly that was what I did. I had worked with a particular institution before, and I knew that because it was in the northern part of Nigeria, most of that, they don't have enough of that expertise, and they really needed people in that place. So I said, when I'm back, I could fit into that place to be able to use my expertise, because there's not enough people there. And then I also then connected it to bigger institutions that are doing larger projects on a long term, and then included my other long-term plans. So yeah, that was what I was going to add.
Thank you very much. So I mean, this question is directed to you. It's a question where people ask, which do you have to do first? Secure an admission, because we are going to move now. We're going to transition from the essays now to admission logistics. And I know, Chidima, our time with you is almost due. So sorry for keeping that long. Which do you have to apply to first? Do you have to apply to the admission first, or you apply to the Commonwealth Scholarship first? And the people ask something about the admission number, because they say you have to put your admission number in your application. If you have, I think it's an optional stuff. So if you can answer that, if any scholar can also comment to that, please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think I kind of like planned my application before time. So I targeted applying to the schools first before the Commonwealth Scholarship started. And I think, in fact, it was it was almost the same time. I was doing it simultaneously, but I was putting in my applications for the school first, because you need an admission. So I think you should focus on applying to the school, gaining admission, before you then focus on writing the essay. Or you could do both simultaneously, but you would then not be wasting your time writing essay for a school that did not admit you when you are sure that you already have an admission. So you could just, because you want to be doing so many applications at the same time, probably like 4 or 5. So if you just kind of like, it's like you just plan to maybe in the first 1 or 2 weeks complete your personal statement, because even some of the essays you will write for the school will still be useful in your Commonwealth application. So I think it's better to just plan your time to submit applications to schools. While you're then waiting for their responses, you then start working on looking at the questions for the Commonwealth Scholarship to those schools. Then I think by the time the whole thing will be done, you will know which is which at the end of the day.
I mean, Chidima, do you want to comment on that? And also another question to you, Chidima, is can one use the same statement of purpose for admission in many schools?
As long as you have the same theme, but do not copy and paste. Don't have exactly the same information here, there. Okay, but you know, I'll be honest, I tweaked my essays a bit, but they were almost saying the same thing. Okay, and I liked what Ayo said. Ensure that your personal statements to the school is consistent. The information there is consistent with what you're going to write in your CSE essays, you know, because people know that the UK schools always give admission if you have a good degree. Okay, they just write anything in their motivational letter or stuff and just send it forth. Okay, but I'm just advising, ensure that you have the same story consistent across. And then there was a question you asked, the first one. I can't remember.
Yes, the question I asked was just about using the same statement of purpose across schools. So I think you already answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a proceed, please.
And I think while using the same statement of purpose across schools, you should be sure of what to tweak, because sometimes there will be peculiarities with some schools. So I think you should look out for those peculiarities and tweak the right things to meet up with each school's demand or whatever they are looking for. Because if you just say, you probably just change only the title, the course title, or you just change, at the end of the day, you might still be missing out on some things. They might be offering the same course, but they might be doing it in like slightly different ways. So being able to like just identify those little differences to just suit them. Of course, you'll be telling the same thing, but be sure that it is still in a way directed to the school, particularly to reflect that, because they know that students do these things, that they do multiple applications, and they know when students give them generic essays, like you just took from one. In fact, sometimes you make the mistake of leaving the name of one school in the essay and you submit it. So you should look out for those kind of things in your essay while using the same statement of purpose.
So furthermore, I wish to thank you so much for the contributions you made before we proceed further. And sorry to many of those who are leaving their questions in the chat. I know Scholar Chinonso is also helping out with some of the responses, and the questions are overwhelming. And some of your questions have already been answered by the scholars. So you want to make sure you keep an open ear so you could fish out some of the things that they've said. So this next question is directed to Scholar. So you were able to secure 4 admissions, 4. And I'm sure you had more than 4 admissions, like 4 nominations, so to say. So how do you write that personal statement specific for admission purposes? Where it's more like, aside the first class or aside your degree, it guarantees your admission. So how do you write a convincing personal statement for admission purpose?
Okay, thank you for your question. And I think I'll repeat I'll repeat similar things as Ayomide said. So personally, my programs are very similar. If you have seen them already, you'll notice that my programs are they are closely related. And I worked ahead of the opening of the scholarship. So I knew the specific programs that I would be going for. The point is that there are some programs that keep repeating themselves. I started applying from 2017, and the programs that I applied for are programs that have been repeating themselves from 2017, even until date. So these are essays that I kept, improving over time. And then I borrowed so much of what I wrote in my development impact statement. I repeated most of them in my personal statement for admissions. I repeated most of them. So I was basically talking about, okay, so there is this problem in Ghana, and there's this is the way I think this is the shortfalls, or the how do you call it, the bottlenecks to achieving to solving the problems in the sector. And then this is what I think. And besides, I've worked with this company. So I was just basically repeating several stuff from my development impact statement in my how do you call it, my personal statement for admissions. All that they are looking to see is somebody that has the eyes to see problems and then propose, how do you call it, solutions to them. Okay, so basically this is what I was doing, repeating some of the basic stuff in my development impact statement, and then talking about my academic and then professional background. And then that is all. I think that is what I did with my admissions application.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think I've exhausted the questions on my list. And to kind of round things up, so please, we can only try this without trying to make it not round. We already have our 121 applicants online. So if you have your questions and it's not been responded to, and please, you are in a quiet background, you can unmute yourself, or you can probably signify in the chat, and I'll tell you to unmute yourself, and then you ask your question verbally, and any of the scholars can answer your questions. Thank you very much. We just have 15 minutes to do that, and then we'll call it a day. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Can I say something before people start asking questions?
Yeah, okay. Before I proceed, then Patrick would join.
Oh, okay. So I would say I was going to add this because I noticed this towards, later on after I had submitted my applications, and I think it was one major thing that affected my nominations, and that was because I only realized it when it was like too late. So, and this was something like I didn't take to be serious. Like I didn't really take it seriously, and that's the English test. It is necessary for you to know that the English test needs to be valid by the resumption date of your course. So even if it is valid during your application and it is not valid at the time of resumption when your course is starting, I think it would not be accepted, because that happened later on. Only for me to then realize, when I realized some schools rejected, in fact, many of them rejected, and I guess that was the main reason why most of because I got the admissions and most of the Commonwealth essays were just coming out, were not being accepted. But the one that gave me the idea that was the problem, I later sent them just WAEC English results, and they accepted it. And I was like, okay, can they like forward that into my CSE application or something? And they were like, no, they've already sent out the CSE whatever towards the board of, whatever board that will be working on it. And since that English result didn't go with the whole package initially, they can then influence that. So I think that really mattered in most of the applications, except for the schools that didn't take English seriously. So if you're going to be writing IELTS, I think you should target it towards the fact that it will still be valid by the time that course will be starting. So I mean, that was one major thing I really regretted during my application. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, you're going to say something before I ask my question. So
yes, I think one major or significant part of all that you are writing is your development impact statement. It is very, very, I don't know how to describe it, but that is one area that tells, that puts you across as a serious applicant. You get it? Some people are fond of generalizing. Some applicants are fond of generalizing. For example, you're applying for a program in environmental management and you're talking about all the issues in the environment. It's not possible. You're talking about drought, you're talking about fire, you're talking about everything in the environment. Of course, your application will be rejected. You can't solve all the problems in the environment sector, or you cannot do that. So be specific, very, very specific. What is the exact problem, one single problem that is in the sector or in that you have identified that you would want it addressed? You get it. So state the problem. And so, for example, with me, I was talking about, because I applied for environmental management, I was talking about pollution, okay, environmental pollution. If you're talking about, if you're applying to a program like sustainable aquaculture, what exactly is the problem? Is it IUU fishing? Is it illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing? What is the problem? And then provide what are the consequences, okay, of that problem. Throw in a statistics, find a verifiable data that can support the argument you are making, and then state out what the agency in your country is doing about that problem. For example, you cannot say that Nigeria, as big as it is doing nothing about illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. It's the biggest lie. Definitely there's a sector that handles that issue, but there are gaps, there are issues, there are lapses. There's something specific that they are not doing. You get it? Maybe it is human resource issues, maybe it is capacity issues, maybe it is policy implementation issues. What are the issues? Then when you have identified that issues, quickly state that this is how the program can help me, tackle that issue, maybe through capacity building, through conducting scientific research and, retrieving the data to guide the implementation and formulation probably of the policies. Like that is how you craft, especially your development. You need to be somebody that is already having the ability to solve the problems. And then that is what puts you out or makes you, set you apart from all the other applicants. I thought we would have time to talk about the development impact statement, because trust me, it is I don't know what my other colleague scholars would say, but that is the most important and relevant part of the
Yes, Patrick, you've highlighted that, due to old age, you can see my hair is already gray. There's so many things I couldn't always remember or pick up. So thanks for highlighting that part. But most of the contributions you've made, it focuses on the personal impact statement, the development impact statement. But then, as much as each of us as scholars has wealth of experiences to share, which is what we've been doing for the past hour, most of the questions people are asking now borders about admission-related issues or some technical issues or logistic issues. And I know Scholatine also is trying on his end to answer most of those questions. So I don't really want to make it too rowdy to allow people ask their questions. And I would really love it if Ayomide, Chidima, or yourself can also, look through the charts to see some of the questions they ask and respond to them. Respond to them verbally.
Hello.
Yeah, please proceed with your question, Kenneth.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry about the video. I'm not properly dressed. I want to ask about he was saying something about this development impact statements. That's what really got me interested. Honestly speaking, I would want him to throw more light on that. How we can actually tweak our essays to focus on the issues that we want to actually solve in future. You get that?
Okay, so it's not about tweaking. It is about finding the problem that spans from the local to the global level. So for example, I am not very open to other areas, but even if you're applying for global health or public health, I think cervical cancer it's a serious issue that spans, from the local to the global level. And then you mentioned how that, impacts on development. Okay, then probably, like I mentioned previously, you quickly step into provide some verifiable data like statistics, probably from WHO, from wherever, just to buttress or to support the arguments that you are making about the problem spanning from local to global level. Then quickly you jump in to talk about what the sector or the agency. So for example, when talking about global health and talking about cervical cancer specifically as a problem, in Nigeria, I think they have the Ministry of Health that handles that issue, and even specific agencies under Ministry of Health that should tackle such issues. You should talk about what they are doing about the specific issue and what is making their efforts futile. You get it. And then mentioning, this is specifically for DIS1, and then mentioning what specific skills the program can equip you with to solve that issues. I don't know if the answers.
Yeah, thank you very much. Tia West,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for asking questions. Tia West, you have your hands raised up. Do you have a question to ask?
Question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please proceed. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, like I was saying, some of us had network issues and couldn't join as at when you started. But I don't know if you've answered the question previously, but my question is, I've gotten my admission, but I don't know what to do at this point. So I've gotten like 3 admissions, and admission under the listed schools and the courses from the sites. That's where I got them from. So I don't know what to do again at this point. I've not seen any, any step-by-step, whatever, what I just have to do. So that's basically what I want to know. So from this step, after your admission, what else?
Okay, Chidima, can you please comment on that? Then Yunus Brian will ask his next question. Thank you.
Hello, Tia West. I think one thing most of us might consider doing a lot is reading the questions, reading the application. Once you go on the site, right before you click, you get to the form where you submit all your essays. It will be important for you to read through the site and then continue your process along. And then also you might want to seek mentors, people who are past scholars, current scholars, or people who are experienced. So, you might not be opportune to join this kind of meeting again. So you probably have somebody who you can always ask personal questions to put you through. So to answer what you have said, after getting your admissions, you proceed to the Commonwealth site, the form, I think it's CSC form site, and then begin your application. But that means you must have written your essays. So I don't know if you have gone to that site, if you have followed the link and gotten to the Commonwealth site where you have to put in your essays and then fill in personal details, or then upload the admission letters that you were given. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope your question has been answered at Tia West. Yunus Brian, you have your hand raised up. Can you proceed to ask your question?
Oh, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yunus Ibrahim. Yeah, I must say that this session has really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and thank you so much for taking out time by sharing your knowledge with us. So my question borders around development impact essays. I have listened all along, and it's been very helpful. So I can recall that Patrick said that we should try to identify a problem. So in as much as we, hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right, thank you. So I understand that there are a couple of problems under the field we are applying into, and as I can remember, as far as I can remember in this session, is that we should try to pick a particular problem we want to solve and try to narrow it down. So for someone applying for developmental economics now, and then there are problems around human capital development, poverty, and all, although it seems intertwined. what advice can you give the person on what particular aspects to write on? Because this has a lot of things around policy implementation. Obviously, I am applying, I'm still quite young with less knowledge. So things around GDP and all, I just need clarification on that. I don't know if this can help.
Would you like to comment on that? If you got his questions right.
Please, can you just do a recap? I was trying to look into the questions in the chat. Can you just do a recap on what you said?
Now, Brian, please just give it a very brief summary of your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So my question is, for someone applying for developmental economics, and with a lot of economic problems facing Nigeria, how can I best put forward my developmental essays, bearing in mind that I do not want to talk about addressing different problems and different solutions? Thank you.
Okay. Well, what I would say is just related to what Patrick has said, being able to identify. You can't write about everything. You just need to, well, you can go from like broad to then narrow it down. Maybe the first 2 sentences will just describe the general problem at large. Then you talk about how it transcends the borders of your country and how it's even affecting, other countries. Then you then begin to narrow it down by giving statistics. Most of the statistics are available on some, databases and websites. You can just look at the current, don't give statistics of maybe 2012 and you're already in 2020. There might be improvement in that area. So you need to be sure. And, could just say maybe currently 30% is currently suffering from so problem. At that point, you're already narrowing it down. And like Patrick said, this is what the country, maybe the goal of the country is to reach maybe 70% at the end of so here, but currently this is the current state of things. You just highlight it and then you then talk about the problem. So what is then not allowing progress to be evidently seen in that area? You talk about the problem and then how your course would be able to, how knowledge or your expertise in that field might be able to contribute to. But at that point, you need to be very, very systematic, because you can't alone, you can't solve a global problem just standing alone in your room, in your place. So there has to be a connection to probably where you've been working before, somewhere you've interned, somewhere you've worked, something you've worked with, probably a research collaboration you've done with some people, or there just has to be a connection. If you're saying you want to solve a problem with your skill, then there must have been a kind of background connection or experience that has inspired you to want to look into that area. So you must be able to connect it in one way or the other, and then talk about how that field, you can then talk about how solving that, whatever thing you're being an expert in that field would be able to solve that problem, maybe by increasing expertise, or you then will be able to work with so company working on so project. Then you should also be able to identify ongoing projects. I think that works. If there's an ongoing project in your country that is kind of working towards solving that thing, but maybe it has even been abandoned, you could state that they've been working on this, but it's been abandoned because of so thing, and then just put all of that together to be, in a very nice, convincing way. So you can't talk about everything, just try to be specific and let there be a connection between your background, the problem, where you're going, why you want to study. Let them see a connection. And that is why I used to say that you need to be intentional about places where you intern. You need to be intentional about places where you apply for jobs, or during your holidays where you go to. You have to be intentional so that you can use some of these experiences, and just the names on the name of that company on your essay alone is enough to tell that, oh, you're actually really interested in working in such environments or in that industry, and you've been making plans and all of that. So
okay, thank you very much. Actually, my your hand is up. You want to ask something before there's a general question I want to. Yes.
Okay, I was going to follow up from what Ayo said to the person who asked that question. If we were not in this meeting and you asked me the question, I'll be very blunt. And the reason is so that you do not have to apply for the Commonwealth a number of times.
Zoom. It's not hard now.
Okay, yeah, so that you do not have to apply for the Commonwealth scholarship or any other scholarship for a very long time. Scholarship application is real business, so you must know what you want. You have to do a critical evaluation of yourself. What do you want from life? What do you want with whatever study that you intend acquiring? So I don't think we're in any position to tell you this is what you're going to write for your development impact. We can only tell you how to make it sell, okay? We will not say this is the particular thing you're supposed to write because you are in this field. It has to come from within. You are the one convincing the reader about yourself, about your application being the best one for them, okay? So to the person and maybe many others who are in that position, you need to take a step back before you start applying so that your essays don't send the wrong message of you. No, I'll tell you, I had almost the same thing, like same experience. So that's why I'm giving you this advice, so you don't repeat my mistake. You know, once people see applications, scholarship applications, everyone is running around, okay, I'll give it my best shot, I'll apply to as many schools because I can. But you need to be strategic about it. Which schools do I want to go to? What course do I want to read and why? But it should relate to you and what you really want to do in the end. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Patrick, I know you want to comment on that. Your hands are up, but there's this person waiting, and I have a list of questions I want to ask as well as I've been guided to. Ihedoro Joseph Chibuzo, I believe your background is quiet. Your hands are up. You want to ask a particular question? You've been up for more than 15 minutes now. Joseph Chibuzo. All right then. Patrick, please, you wanted to say something. Please proceed before I ask.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Joseph is here.
Patrick, thank you. No worries, Joseph. Proceed.
Okay. I want to say my sincere apologies for actually coming a little bit behind schedule. I want to actually talk to Chidinma precisely. I actually intercepted the post. In fact, let's say a post of this particular webinar as regards to the CS scholarship application, and I saw that what I am going for is, there's a strong nexus between what I'm going for and what she got, what she was nominated for at University of Bristol. So I'm currently working very hard to get my essays concluded. And I humbly want to ask her, I know she's so busy. She had so many things to do in UK, a lot of things on her table. I want her to help me peruse through my essays to correct me because I know I've made so many errors. So I don't know if she have anything to say as regards to it.
Okay, Victor, that's very bold. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to humbly ask. It's fine. I can fulfill it.
Okay. So how can I get across to you? Your email to send across to you my essay. How I'm going to do that?
Just to be clear. But by the end of this talk, some of the scholars, if they please to, they would share their email addresses.
No, please, too high,
Yeah, don't worry.
But that was why I say humbly.
It's all right. Thank you. It was a bold step anyway, Joseph. So there's the chat is there privately. You could probably send a private chat to her. So if she replies, but that's already out of it. So
okay, thank you.
Patrick, please proceed before I ask my next question. Thank you very much.
I wanted to add up to what Chidinma said. So, find time to read. I have a business administration background, but I managed to, secure admissions in the environment. You get it? Someone may ask, how did you, manage to transit, from business administration to the environment? Find time, read on the topic that you want to talk about in your essays. Okay, for example, if you have identified a problem in a specific area, go online, download like a couple of articles. You know, like Ayomide said, like this is a full-time job. Like pursuing scholarship, you need to invest a lot of time. You need to sit down, read. You don't just get up and then write anything and expect to win it. Like these people are serious people. They are not jokes. Like they mean business, and they are giving you about £50,000. Like it's a lot of money. You really need to impress, okay, on them. Find time, download articles. Don't just rush through your application. This is an advice to all the applicants. Don't just, that was a mistake I made. I thought, you know, I'm a good writer. I could just write anything. I just take, you know, the topic and then I start to write and then it comes back rejected. I could apply to as high as 11 and I don't even get one reserve. I'm being very honest with you. And it was because I was rushing through my applications. I was not having time to, you know, do some in-depth reading on the topic, and then I'll just, you know, write it like that, and then it comes out rejected. So it took me 3 years to get through this. And then when I realized, I started doing good, started doing good research, and then I was able to, you know, land that many nominations. So my advice is that have time, download articles, read. Don't rush your even some of the solutions to the problems that if it is cervical cancer, you would have the solutions in books. They are there. They shouldn't be your personal even solutions, you know, they are in articles. Find them, tweak them, put it in your essays, and they would make your essays shine. And that is how you can, you know, secure a nomination.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have just one more question to give to the scholars, then they would give their final words. And then one more question from the audience. And I know that TechnoSpark 5 has sent in the messages on the chat, and now he's staring at me with his eyes. So please raise up your hands are up. TechnoSpark 5, please ask your question. Thank you. Sorry for keeping it alone. You're on mute, TechnoSpark 5.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me clearly. Please, sorry for my background, please. I would like to find out while applying, like at the start of this application, they do normally ask, are you currently registered for a university qualification? And me, for instance, now I have gotten admission in about 2 schools at the moment. So I went as far as saying, yes, I am currently registered for a university qualification. Then at the point where they asked, what is the date of starting? I told them I'm starting by 20th of September 2021. Then I'm to finish 20th of September 2022. I don't know, is it right for me to say yes, or should I just leave that place as no? That's my question.
Let me jump in. So okay. You cannot be registered for 2 university qualifications. That is impossible. So the point is, there are some people that are taking their masters already, and at that point, if you really want that masters, then you'd have to say no, which we all know is a lie. But yes, of course, you have to say no. There are some people that are even in the middle of their masters when they got a scholarship, when they were even applying. You know, at that point, you just have to say no, because it makes you ineligible. You get it. You'll be your application will be thrown out. So it should be a no.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So one of our scholars already left. As I said, you know, we all have our pressing issues. So we have 6 more minutes now, and we're over. So I have one very last question, and then we call it a day. So I know I checked through the list of the essay questions, and I found out that there was one particular question I didn't ask. So Ayomide, would you be kind to help contribute on this part where it says how the impact of your work could be best measured, and then objectives during awards. So can you comment on how that's part of the essay should be? You know, they just said 100 words, so I'm expecting that it shouldn't be something that lengthy. How the impact of your work could be best measured. Yes. You're on mute, Ayomide. Sorry. Yes, I could see your smile.
So that part was quite tricky, and it took me a while to actually know what to put into that part. So I think you could talk about organizations that will be influenced by your course or that field. For instance, maybe some NGOs. Let me use agriculture for example. If you're doing something in plant science or whatever, you could say the impact. I think you should go from local to national, then to probably. Okay, yeah, I think the impact should be within Nigeria. So you could go from local to national in the sense that who are the people that will directly benefit from that field or from any improvement that is made in your field. Maybe as much as you don't want to just talk about farmers only, you want to also talk about the research community, you want to talk about agricultural institutions in your country. By the time you mention one or two, or you want to talk about, I'm just using agriculture for example, because I mean that makes it easier for me to explain what I'm trying to say. So then you talk about probably NGOs that in the field that are trying to also solve problems, because that information or any publications from your research will be able to inform them or be able to solve one problem or the other. So you could also talk about things like that. You could also talk about that the impact of your work will be measured by improvements in in the field or improvements in that specific thing. You're not just talking about the whole globe problem. You're now being specific as far as you want to generalize.
We cannot hear you, Ayomide.
Ayomide, sorry, you went mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, oh, wow. And there's kind of backing sound in the background. I don't know if you leave me.
Okay, like I was saying, I was just saying that you could talk about, for this, I'm trying to use our culture for as an example. So if you were saying, okay, the problem growing rice in Nigeria, or rice distribution has been a problem, and then plant science and biotech can be able to will be able to improve rice production and all that. So when you're now talking about how the impact of the work will be measured, of course they expect you to refer to the fact that when there's probably more rice being produced locally in the country, maybe which will be informed by statistics that would be available, because of course statistics about improvement are always available on certain databases. So you could tell them that will be informed by statistics that will be, of course, published. You could talk about the fact that cultural institutions benefit from the knowledge. So it's just, I think those are the basic things that you can talk about, and then look at who is really, really benefiting from this. I can't really generalize, because I can only say for a field I'm familiar with, because of course, depending on the problem you're trying to solve, or depending on what you're writing about, that's what is going to determine who is benefiting from what. So that is kind of like specific. So you just need to research into that field and know who is going to be the direct beneficiaries. But like I said, generally institutions, individuals, NGOs, and then generally, yeah. There was a second question. I think there's a question.
That was just I think I wants to take the second part of the question.
Okay.
Yes, but
yes, let me quickly add up. So I'll be very specific.
Yes, thank you.
If you know what you are writing, you know how to measure it, unless you don't know what you want to do. So many people don't know what they are doing, so they don't even know how to even measure the outcome. So I'll be specific with my applications. So I was talking about capacity building. I was talking about scientific research. I was talking about what else? Policy formulation. Okay. So to measure these things, I was saying that my impact in capacity building can be measured by the number of environmentalists that will be trained to gain hands-on skills in scientific research each year through my collaboration with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Do you get it? So this is something that you can easily measure. It is very, very easy. Now, and then my scientific research, I said that my research impact can be measured by the number you can find it, my research there. You can see the number of people that have cited the paper. These are things that are easy to measure. Okay, so if you are able to outline, clearly what exactly you want to do, you should be able to tell how it should be measured. Okay, step in. It's okay.
No, Chidima wanted to say something. Our hands are up, so that's why I wanted to give a final word, and then we call it a day.
Okay, just to add to what Patrick said, for those people who probably be in the academic, you want to publish in high impact journals, and then let other people see it or cite your article. But I want to give just one advice. The Commonwealth is all about SDGs. Okay, while you're identifying your problem statement, try to link it to a particular SDG, a problem, particularly in your own home country. So an advice for many people who will be writing essays, the United Nations SDGs, they have both online and baseline track indicators. So, they have set 2030 as their target year to achieve certain things. So you need to say, okay, they periodically evaluate that condition in a country. So you probably need your solutions or whatever you'll be doing or whatever impact you'll be making to, you need that impact to be seen in their indicators. Do you get? It will no longer be at the same level of probably 90% havoc or 90% damage. It would reduce. I hope that makes sense. So just try to, I'm very particular about that one. The SDGs are usually tracked both online and they have baseline indicators.
Thank you very much. So this is where we'll be rounding up. So I think those of you who signed up for the program, the recorded video will be available on the First Class Leaders Network YouTube page. So one way or another, the same way you came across this information, you also come across the recordings. So we'll share it across our platforms and over every other places on social media. And some of you have asked for the email addresses of some of the speakers. So as I said earlier, it's something you could probably send to them privately on the chat here, and if they should respond to you, that's perfectly fine. We have to respect people's privacy in this time where the social media makes everywhere like a global village. So I'd like to thank most particularly each and every one of our speakers here. Ayomide with a wonderful smile and contribution. Chidima, very, very concise with a lot of information to share. And then Patrick, you won't believe it, most of the things he said, if not that I already have scholarships now, just start applying for scholarships again. So I don't want to look at it, but I have big eyes. So I'd like to thank the First Class Leaders Network as well, who have set up this platform for us to come here and speak. So I know most of your questions are not answered, but hopefully in time you'll be able to just try and apply, try and make use of information they've shared. And if you have any challenges, there's always someone somewhere to ask. Even if your fellow applicants as well, they'll be able to share one or two tips with you. Oh, I did this way. So ask people, don't work in isolation. And before you know it, you get it done. And just like many of us in the past, you also have yourself to be a Commonwealth Scholar for life. So thank you once again. Thank you very much. And we'll be ending the meeting now, so you can sign out. We already have 3 minutes beyond schedule. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Amide. Thank you, Chidima. Bye, everyone.